Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about Section 21s. I've had a few private messages and emails through from people who seem to be a little bit confused about Section 21s and how to use them. And unfortunately, a lot of that confusion seems to be coming from letting agents themselves. So let's start at the very beginning. What is a Section 21? So a Section 21 is a notice that you serve on your tenant when they've done nothing wrong. It's known in the industry as a no-fault notice. So you don't need a ground, you don't need a reason. It's basically because you want your property back, but the tenant's been good as gold. So that's really what a Section 21 is. Now, I know lots of people use a Section 21 when there's rent arrears because basically it's more guarantee of getting your eviction than using a Section 8 notice, where you've then got ground and you've got to prove it, and the tenant can go to court with a defence, and this can eke out the court case for months and months, costing lots of money. So I purely understand why landlords and letting agents would opt for a Section 21 as opposed to a Section 8 when there's rent arrears or any other breach. So when can you serve a Section 21? This is where it starts to get confusing for people, and I've heard contradictions in regards to how the legislation works. So a Section 21 is a minimum of 2 months notice. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be 2 months notice. It can be 3 months notice, it can be 4 months notice, but it can't be less than 2 months notice. So we'll be clear on that to start with. And if your tenant is in a fixed term tenancy, you can't serve a Section 21 until the first 4 months of the tenancy have passed. So when you're serving a Section 21 on a 12-month fixed term tenancy, you can serve your Section 21 after the first 4 months have passed. But you've got to understand the Section 21 cannot end the fixed term sooner than its natural contractual end. So 12 months is 12 months regardless of when you're serving the Section 21. Now, the other issue you have here is a Section 21 only has a 6-month shelf life, a use it or lose it, if you will. Now, you can serve 2 months notice with your Section 21 at any point in the tenancy after the first 4 months of the fixed term, and you can give a minimum of 2 months notice. You can give 3 months, you can give 4 months. But if you give 4 months notice, and that brings the tenancy to its natural end of the fixed term, you've only got 2 months left to use that to go to court. If after the 6 months from the date of service has expired and you haven't gone to court, you've got to start the whole process again. So what I'm hearing in the industry at the moment is a misunderstanding of how the Section 21 and the regulations work. I'm hearing a lot of landlords being told they cannot serve a Section 21 in a fixed term. They can only use a Section 21 in a periodic. This is not true. So if you've got a 6-month fixed term tenancy, you can easily serve your Section 21 at month 4 to end the tenancy when it would naturally end at month 6, and you have no problem. You've still got your 4 months to go to court if you wish. Now, if you've got a break clause in your contract, this is even more of a confusion for people. So break clauses are an addition to the contract. They're not a legal requirement, and they're not really held up with any statutory legislation. So it's basically a mutual agreement between landlord and tenant. Now, a break clause can only be activated, again, from the landlord's point of view, by serving a Section 21. So even though you've got this break clause in the tenancy agreement to be able to end it sooner than the fixed term's natural end, you've still got to go through the Section 21 process. Now, it depends how your break clause is worded. And unfortunately, I was working with a letting agent yesterday who had taken the temporary coronavirus legislation on board literally and changed all of their ASTs to read in the break clause, the landlord must give 4 months notice, because at the time of writing the AST, that's what the temporary legislation said. The problem they have today is that 4 months notice still stands because it's additional to the contract. It's not governed by statutory legislation. So although the landlord is still going to be serving a Section 21, the 4 months notice written into the break clause, it's got to stand. You can't reduce that to 2 months. So it's really important when writing break clauses in to understand that put the 2 months, because that's the legislation, that's what it will always go back to. And then if the legislation changes again temporarily like it did for COVID, then just make sure you amend your notices that you're serving. Make sure they're in line with current legislation. You don't have to change your tenancy agreements to mirror that. And finally, understanding how a Section 21 works. It is not an eviction notice. I hear so many people saying Section 21 eviction notice. It isn't. A Section 21 is a notice to tell your tenant that you are looking to seek possession of the property. Now, when the Section 21 expires after 2 months, the tenant doesn't have to leave the property. They don't have any legal reason to leave the property. So you as a landlord must apply to court for possession. You'll get a possession hearing. Unless you're using accelerated possession, then you'll get a possession date. When that possession date is sent to the tenant, it's usually 14 days from the date it was done. And again, at that date, when that date comes and goes, the tenant still doesn't have to leave legally. It's great if they do, but they don't have to. You then have to go back to court and apply for a bailiff's warrant. Once the bailiff's date is set and the bailiffs turn up at the front door, only at that point is the tenant legally supposed to leave the property and can be removed by the police, etc., etc., if it all goes a little bit nasty, which we hope it doesn't. So it's really key to understand a Section 21 is not an eviction notice. It is simply a notice informing the tenants that in 2 months' time you intend to go to court for possession. So I hope that has made Section 21 a little bit easier to understand. If not, then please drop me a message in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you've got. Thank you.